In a recent study by Agents Together, it was found that 1 in 2 estate agents are either experiencing or have historically experienced mental illness with anxiety and depression in the workplace listed as the top two contributors. I'm joined today by Antonelli Singers, a multi-award winning estate agent who's partnered up with the Agency UK. Nelly, in your opinion, why do you think estate agency ranks so poorly with regard to mental health?
Well, first of all, Chris, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be on. I think, to be honest, that's not a straight question or answer that I can give. I think there's a multitude of factors that affect, people's mental health, especially in the estate agency world. So to jump straight in, it's a high stress environment that you're working in, high targets. It's unpredictable hours, and what I mean by that as well is in the corporate world, you'll normally work a Saturday, which means if you're not doing the 6 days a week, it means you might then have to have a day off in the week to compensate for that Saturday. You've got market fluctuations that are completely out of your control. You've got, client expectations, emotional labor that you're dealing with that as well. When you're dealing with those client expectations, a competitive environment that is known. And in my world, in the self-employed model, I think there's a lot of isolation there as well. So I think really those 7 or 8 factors that I've mentioned right there are probably the leading ones, in my opinion, to the poor mental health in the state agency.
So if I was going to make you manager an office, mayor of an office, king of a state agency, for example, it's a very good title. What do you think would be your first thing you would do to address the mental health issue that is within a state agency? Where do you think, there's a lot of issues there. There's
Yeah.
6, 7, 8 issues, for example, you've got there. Which one's sort of the core one you think to yourself, actually, if I could just change that on day one, would be in a better place straight away?
I think it's you know what, it's an interesting question, the way you've asked that, because I think it's part of the industry. I think you've got to be aware of these issues before you come into the industry, because I don't think you'll solve them. It's part of it. I think in the way in which you solve these issues is in speaking about it, is in having a proper support system underneath you to be able to go and deal with them issues, talk about it, and learn how to manage that within yourself. So if I'm looking, for me, my top 3 out of those 7 or 8 that I gave you, the unpredictable hours, for example. So in my world, when I was coming through the ranks, if you like, during my 12-year career as an estate agent, I would always have a Tuesday off, which meant I then work every Saturday, most Saturdays out of the year. So in terms of what that does, there's a bit of a breakdown in terms of your social life, because you can't go out and socialize with your friends on the Friday evening because you've got work on the Saturday. On the Saturday, you then might want to go out, but then you've only got the one day to recover on the Sunday. Back to work on Monday, and then back off again then on the Tuesday. So some people might do, what I used to do, is I would therefore go out on a Monday, go to the pub, and I would get almost this judgment within society of going, it's a Monday and you're drinking, what are you doing in the pub? And it's kind of like, well, it's my weekend, I've got tomorrow off. So there's dealing with that aspect of it as well. Another one for me, market fluctuations. This is probably one of the most relatable concepts in any industry, but especially in a state agency. We're dealing with interest rates that we can't control. We're dealing with, in the recent years, a pandemic. Before that, it was Brexit. So much uncertainty, any sort of political uncertainty will destabilize the apple cart, if you like. And finally, that emotional labor. It's really difficult. For me, the best estate agents are the ones that are emotionally involved. They really care about your purchase, your sale, your onward move. But there is a toll, there is a price to be paid for being that emotionally involved. They say, buying and selling a house is probably one out of 3 most stressful things that you can deal with. I think the other 2 are probably dealing with death and getting married.
Yeah. I think it's divorce, but even maybe.
Yeah, or the divorce, yeah, that's on there as well, which actually then leads to then having to move, doesn't it? And then, yeah, if I'm taking on that level of stress all the time to try and take it away from you, that's going to have an emotional toll on me, and obviously affect your mental health there.
And you mentioned sort of curing the issues sort of down the line and, time out the business and all those sort of things as well. Do you think it's a case that prevention is better than cure? And that when someone first joins an estate agency, for example, there should be a company policy or a chat or a conversation or some sort of system in place to say, look, this is a stressful job and this might happen to you. If this starts happening to you, this is what you should do next. Do you think that would kind of help the issue down the line?
100% spot on. At my previous role in the corporate world, we did actually have access to a helpline that you could just call, and there would someone be on the other end of the phone, and you could just chat, completely confidential. But my criticism of that was great, was that it wasn't advertised or spoken enough. In your training, in your onboarding, it should be drilled in you in your morning meetings or once a week at your end of week meeting. Guys, what have you found tough this week? What have you found tough this month? Have you thought about speaking about it outside of the office where there is no judgment at all? Because sometimes you might be quite scared to speak about these issues with your manager, your area manager, your peers, because there's that fear of judgment, that fear of rejection, and that fear of letting someone down. And actually, all it does is lead to worse performance because you're not, yourself. So yeah, absolutely. If that support system's there, great, but let's take that to the next level and let's really get people speaking about it and stop making it such a taboo subject, which it seems to be. And luckily, I mean, at the moment, that's why we're doing this, right? Where people seem to be more willing to speak about these things, and I think it's a step in the right direction.
And so why you kind of touched on it there slightly. Why do you think people are so hesitant to kind of hold their hand up to their area manager, for example, their boss or whoever it may be, and say, actually, I'm having a bit of a tough time at the moment? Why do you think people are hesitant to do that?
I mean, I can only speak about my experiences. And back when, again, when I was coming up through the ranks, it's almost like the people that were in, that they've gone through their own ranks and they're now in the positions of management. So they're started an agency, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years before I did. I think it was a completely different culture. I think mental health has come a long way in the right direction. But if the people at the top aren't getting the proper training on how to handle that, the reason I'm saying it was fear of rejection is because you would be judged. You would be scared of it. That's just an excuse as to why you're not hitting your targets. So if there's that constant, there's that fear. Naturally, you don't want to go home to your wife, your partner, whoever it may be, and say you've lost your job, or be managed out the business, for want of a better phrase. But there's all these fears that, unfortunately, they're there because they have happened. So I think it's just the whole industry needs to be revamped in that way, and it needs to be taken away. And like I keep saying, I think we are heading in that right direction.
Yeah, and I always find it a bit of a conundrum, should we say? Because
Mm.
I think for anybody who's going through some sort of mental health situation at the moment, the easy thing to do is to stay quiet and do nothing about it, and just kind of keep in your lane and be quiet, and that sort of that's, I see that as the easy route. Actually, the harder thing to do is to put your hand up and say, actually, something's not quite right at the moment. I need a bit of time to myself, or whatever it may be that's going to help you out. And that's like,
Mm-hmm.
that is the tougher thing to do, but
Mm-hmm.
it's almost seen like you're given less respect by doing the tougher thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree. I was very lucky. Like I said, I can only talk about what I've been through, but I was very lucky to have a manager at the time. When I went through some real horrible stuff, I went through a breakup myself, and they were there for me. They gave me some time off, fully paid, and then that wasn't quite enough. So they offered me sabbatical to make sure I could go away, come back, and know that my job is still there. So there's loads of things people can do, but it's just whether you're lucky enough to have a manager or someone within, you know, that peer group that's going to be that's going to really listen to you and actually be able to help you move forward with that. Because I think these issues for me, you know, how it can affect people is you can have troubles at home, you can have a breakdown of personal relationships, you can have health issues. I mean, I know three people alone within the estate agency world that directly are my friends who were all estate agents who have had heart attacks, all three of them before they were 50. One of them was even in his 30s, early 30s.
I mean,
So, it's not a joke. It needs to be addressed, because it is life or death in some cases. Poor diet. Some people, you might even go down the road of addiction to try and deal with that stress because you just don't know how to talk about it. So yeah, absolutely. It needs to be discussed.
do you think that the estate agency industry is sort of reaping what it sows in this situation? Because on the survey, they said that 16% of people who came back said that they had some sort of any kind of mental health training or any kind of mental health awareness at their workplace. So if 16% are saying yes, we have had some sort of like that, 84% are coming back and saying we've had nothing whatsoever with regard to mental health and sort of best of luck. So is it the estate agency industry not doing enough to start off with? So therefore
Yeah.
they're basically cashing in their check at the end of it and going, "We put no work into this, therefore now you have a problem."
Absolutely, I think that's spot on, and that's a surprising stat, don't you think? 84% of estate agents don't know that there might be a support system, or they've had no support whatsoever within their workplace. I think that's shocking, and I actually think that if estate agency companies were to address this properly, they might actually see better performance. Because if you don't have, if you're less stressed, you're more relaxed, you're naturally going to perform better. I mean, it's key. It's absolutely key for me. I've got to take a bit of time out. Enough's got to be enough. When it's your personal time, it's your personal time. But I'm very competitive myself. I always have been. So I enjoy a bit of sport. And it's so key for me to take myself out of that work environment and play some sport, for example. Because when I'm playing sport, I'm not thinking about my job. I'm not thinking about a state agency whatsoever because I'm concentrated on trying to win, whatever sport I'm playing at the time, and that's all I'm thinking about. And it's a relief because even when it's 8 o'clock at night, I'm tempted to go on my emails, because my mind's working. I'm thinking about the estate agency, which then brings up the stress levels when you see someone pull out of a deal at 8:30 on a Saturday night, and then that's ruined the rest of your weekend, doesn't it? You can't then enjoy your night out that you might have had for dinner or the day with the family you've got planned on a Sunday.
Do you think it's you mentioned it earlier, but do you think it's a lack of controllables with regard to the day to day? So, for example, the market can turn like that. They do a stamp duty announcement and suddenly it's bananas, or they change the base rate and
Mm-hmm.
suddenly it's really quiet. There's an election coming up and sort of there's a change of weather on that side. But also, you're dealing with other humans who are unpredictable at the best of times, and a sale might fall through no fault of your own in any way, shape, or form, and therefore it's a bit of a kick in the nuts, which is not an official term, to yourself through absolutely no fault of your own whatsoever. So do you think that sort of environment sort of breeds sort of mental health issues effectively?
Oh, 100%. Of course it does. But not only that, but I completely understand where a seller might be coming from if it falls through and it's affecting their life. So I had an example the other day. We're about, ready to exchange contracts on something. We've got three people within a chain. The one I'm selling, they need to be in by a certain date for a school. My client and their onward purchase, they're getting pressure from the developer because they're buying a new build that it needs to be completed by X date because they want to get their completion in before the end of March because of, guess what, targets that they've got. They're not caring about how their buyer actually feels. They're just caring about hitting their target and getting in before the end of the tax year. And unfortunately, we lost the buyer at the very bottom of the chain. Now, I couldn't do anything about that. My client couldn't do anything about that. And my buyer couldn't do anything about that. But unfortunately, there's tears, there's arguments, there's pointing the finger, and it's completely normal because it's affecting your life. And all this pressure you're putting on yourself, as well as others that are then passing that pressure on to you as well. So, you know, selling houses, buying houses is incredibly emotional. And funny enough, we was there listening to Chris Watkins, wasn't we? And he was saying that, we think logically because we have to, but we have to understand people emotionally to get the deals through. Because if you don't, I think it's one in 20 people think logically versus 19 that think emotionally. And you can completely see why.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the expression "don't shoot the messenger" is yeah, the wrong expression in every way, shape, or form. Everyone's like, take full aim at the messenger, and you'll get shot at being the messenger, and you have to take it on
Yeah,
the chin.
I've got way too many scars being shot at as the messenger, but
Yeah, I can imagine. So I think we're all in agreement there is an issue, should we say? So if someone was listening to this and thought, okay, this is resonating with me, and this sort of sounds, I'm kind of ringing a few bells here effectively. What are some stages you'd go through to kind of improve their situation? Where would you sort of begin for them?
I think taking a step back sometimes, and just seeing what you've accomplished so far. Read some old reviews of some people that may have left for you that were happy clients. Just remind yourself, actually, you've done a good job. Go and speak to some peers, family, whoever it may be, and just share your thoughts. First of all, learn to speak about your feelings and your emotions, because you are just human at the end of the day. After, I think everyone should have a hobby. And I think you need to set some clear boundaries within your own personal diaries as to when there's family time, there's work time. And don't get me wrong, in the self-employed world, one of the big things that I say to my clients is that I am available 7 days a week. You can text me anytime. I might see your message, but if I see the message, I'll say, listen, I can't deal with this right now. I'm busy. I will deal with it then. Because historically, estate agents are awful at communicating. so, so actually, if you learn to have those tough conversations with yourself, you might then be able to have the tough conversations with your buyers, and therefore everyone gets a better experience at the end of it. So I think, yeah, in summary, those three things: set some boundaries, learn to talk about it, have some hobbies, I think are probably going to help you out in the long run.
Yeah, I most definitely agree with those. I think they're really good points and some real good gems to take away there. And I think,
Mm.
talking, going a bit further from where you've mentioned there as well, personally speaking, my phone goes onto airplane mode at 5 o'clock every single day. And I say to my clients when they first start working with me, I double dare to try and get hold of me past 5 o'clock. You will not get hold of me in any way, shape, or form. We have to wait until 8:30 the next day. And that's kind of the boundary for me, work,
Yeah.
outside of work, etc. I've done the work until 10 o'clock at night. Thank you very much. Not to go in there again.
Mm-hmm.
And for myself, work finishes at 5 o'clock. I'll be in the gym by 5:15 every single day.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
Bang on,
that
right?
is my time, headphones on, don't phone me, don't disturb me, music nice and loud, don't talk to anybody. I spend all day talking, talking, talking. That is my time. No talking. Thank you very much. I've probably said 3 words to anyone in the gym in about 5 years in the gym I'll be going to. So yeah,
Very sociable then, Chris.
yeah, yeah. So in work, sociable guy, I'll chat to anybody, no problem at all. Outside of work for that hour or so, that is my time.
Yeah.
That is Chris's time to kind of go away from there.
And how important is that? It's everything, isn't it? It makes you feel really, really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the number one priority and the number one USP, most amazing part of your business sounds a bit cheesy, but it is you. Because
Yeah.
if you are the fourth person to have a heart attack that Nelly knows, for example, you're no good to your business in any way, shape, or form if you're dead. So
Exactly.
you need to
Yeah.
treat yourself like that, because I think lots of people treat themselves like they're like the kicking boy of the business sort of thing, when really the business stops without you and everything else is secondary through that. So I think lots of people need to realize that they are how important they are, not
Mhm.
only to their business, but also to their loved ones and friends and families, and how it should
Mhm.
absolutely be the number one priority.
Yeah. And I used to get it, booking holiday when I was working for the corporate estate agents. And my manager would say, yeah, go away, recharge your batteries. Don't worry about any of the sales for those 2 weeks that you're off. I will deal with this. And that was really reassuring. However, it shouldn't get to the point where you have to recharge your batteries and go on a 2 week holiday, because you could actually be, don't get me wrong, we all really enjoy our 2 week holidays, but if you can be at 100% throughout, well, not 100%, but if you can be at 80% throughout, because you take away, you have these boundaries in place and these hobbies in place, and you don't talk to anyone for an hour whilst you're in the gym, you'll probably get more performance out of that estate agent. Come the end of the year, they may have sold more houses.
Do you think part of the issue is that people don't realize how far they've come? So I can talk about this from personal experience. So without sounding too much like a dick, I think I can say this. My last 2 months have been the record months for the business, and really, really good, over the moon with how it's going, sort of thing. My partner's like, "Oh, Chris, that's amazing, really well done, that's absolutely great." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's all right." I remember the first month or so, I think I got a check-in or a bill being paid for like 200 quid, and I was like, "Yes, 200 quid's going into the business. I've got some money come in." Now I've got a lot more than that. You'd be pleased to know, coming into the business, and I'm like, "Yeah, it's all right." I want to get, oh yeah, but
Yeah.
I'm at that at the moment. I want to get to that. And then when I get to that, I want to get to that. And I want to get, and it's just that never ending. So do you think people have an issue sort of not looking back about how far they've actually come and just thinking, oh, I could get to that next step if I work really hard?
Yeah, and I think that's why I said initially, take a step back and realize what you've actually accomplished. because you'll be surprised as to how good it is. I mean, I'm massively guilty of that as well, Chris, if it makes you feel any better. You know, you get the checks coming in and all of a sudden it just doesn't feel enough. I mean, I've said it, I've probably had my best year in terms of a monetary value ever, but I've never been so skint in my life. Because of the constant bills you have coming out when you're self-employed. But at the same time, had I looked back at how much I've earned from a personal perspective versus how much I did earn, and showed me that when I was an estate agent back in the corporate world, I probably would have, you know, that famous Wolf of Wall Street moment where he's like, "Show me a check with $75,000 in it, and I'll quit my job right now." I would have had the same reaction. So, you know, I think you're absolutely right. Step back, realize what you've achieved. Again, I think for me, really important, realize how many people's lives you've changed or affected in a positive way. Think back to all those moments, that those families that you've made happy, and actually it might put a smile on your face and release some of those stress levels, because there's no point in having a heart attack. You're useless to everyone then. And you know, even if you know, hopefully you recover if you do have a heart attack, but even then you've got to recover, and then you're out of the business for another 3 to 6 months anyway, so still useless.
Yeah, golden takeaway from today: don't have a heart attack.
Don't have a
So,
heart attack.
so I know from personal experience. So I think it was about 2, 3 months ago. You know, you're just having a bit of a bad day. And you're like, oh, everything's going against me today. This has not gone well. That's not gone well. And I thought, actually, I need to update my Google My Business page. So actually, I'll send a video out to all the guys I'm working with at the moment, saying, "Hi, it's Chris. Hope we're okay. Do
Mhm.
us a favor, give us a quick 5-star review on Google if you get 2 seconds today." And within a minute, I had the 5-star reviews start coming in, and my day went from like bad to brilliant in like 2 seconds.
Mhm.
I was like, "Oh, that's really sweet. Oh, that's really nice. Oh, that's really nice." You kind of you feel appreciated, where sometimes in the States you just don't feel appreciated.
Yeah, I think you can be that punching bag for a lot of people in the state agency, right? But yeah, no, absolutely. Change your day. Stop what you're doing. Sending that extra crazy email to the solicitor or to your vendor isn't going to help. It's not going to help anyone. Take a step back, go and do something else. Or, you know, I've had times where I've got, no, enough for today. Shut my laptop. I'm off. I'm not dealing with this anymore. I'll deal with it again tomorrow. You know, days like when you've had 3 fall throughs in a day or something like that, and you're like, all this work I've done over 3 months, and all of a sudden it's fallen through. It's just wasted. So yeah, absolutely. You've got to be doing that sort of stuff, Chris. 100%.
So we spoke earlier about sort of the first step being for you to talk to somebody and to have a conversation with somebody.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What would you say to someone who's kind of sat on the fence, who's kind of thinking, "Oh, I don't really want to have that conversation. Not going to be a nice conversation. They'll think I'm this, I'll think I'm that, all those sort of things." What advice would you give that person who sort of sat on the fence about having a conversation?
Uh, I think you've got to do it. Okay, first, have a conversation with yourself. If you can't have the conversation with someone else, go and stand in front of the mirror and have your conversation with yourself. And and then, you know, hopefully you'll have someone in your life that you are able to trust. It doesn't have to be in work. It doesn't have to be your partner. It can, you know, it can be your nan. It can be your mum. It can be your dad. It can be anyone. But just talk about it. Take that first step and just talking about it. And we say it, right? What's the very first thing that you've got to do when you're starting out as a self-employed estate agent? It's like, do this, and this, like loads of ideas. Just pick one and just go and do it. But as soon as you get it out of the way, you will feel like a weight's come off your shoulders immediately, 100%.
So I can talk from personal experience here. I remember having a chat with my partner, I don't know, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, that sort of direction about it. And I would say it was one of the best days of my life. It sounds
Really?
very over the top. I've done a lot of cool things and done a lot of cool places. I would say top 5 things I've done in my lifetime is having that conversation with my partner. Without a
Mm-hmm.
doubt, 100%.
Yeah,
And
and it's surprising as to how good you feel afterwards. I don't know if you've. I think most people. What about when you was a kid and you've told that lie and your parents are like, "No, come on, tell me the truth," and eventually you break down and you tell them
yeah,
the truth. How good did that feel? That's what I can assimilate that feeling to. That moment of like all of a sudden you're like, I don't have to keep this up anymore. This front, it's off my shoulders, and actually they've not reacted the way I thought they were going to react. It's actually a hell of a lot more positive, and now I feel more energized to go and try and make my day better.
yeah, I think it's always 10 times worse in your head, and leave that in your head for a period of time. It gets 100 times worse, 1,000 times worse. You're like, I'm definitely not saying anything. So,
Yeah.
my advice, and Nelly's advice, if you're sat on the fence about chatting to somebody, just do it, but make sure it's the right person. You know,
Absolutely.
if you're going to chat to your boys down the pub and get taken the piss out of for the next 20 minutes, probably not the best environment to do it. But if you've got a partner, mum, dad, brother, sister, whatever it may be, that you can open up to and you think they'll have an adult conversation with you and not just kind of make jokes about it, do it. You will feel better for it.
100%.
Nelly,
I mean, yeah, I was just gonna say, like, it's so spot on about your mates, but I think sometimes you can even have that conversation with your mates and go, guys, I don't want the banter today. I just a serious conversation. This is how I'm feeling, and I think that your mates will pick you up if they're good friends. They'll pick you up for
I,
sure.
I remember, one of my friends, I remember being in the car with him. Must have been, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. And he said, "Oh, mate, just that, I've just been like diagnosed with depression and I'm on antidepressants." And I was like, "Oh, okay. All right, so all right, I dropped him off. I was like, I see you later, then, mate. All right, cool, bye. I texted from there on. I was like, I'm sorry, mate. I didn't know what to say. I was like, I do I say sorry? Do I say you're all right? Do I say like I've got no idea? Obviously, I hope you're okay and we can chat about it, mate. But at the time, like you completely caught me off guard, buddy. So
And you know what? That's a whole nother subject, really, isn't it? It's like once you've had that conversation, sometimes you are going to catch these people off guard, and don't be alarmed at the very first reaction, going, "Oh, that wasn't the reaction I was hoping for, neither." Because, like you said, sometimes you just need to take that in and go, "I don't really know how to deal with this. I'm not very well equipped." And I think, especially in boys' group, I reckon that's probably one of the reasons as to why there's so much banter, and they take the piss out of it or whatever. They take the piss out of you because they don't know how to deal with it. It's not their fault. It's not them being mean. It's just that's how they think they should deal with it because it makes them laugh and it makes you laugh. But
yeah.
internally, it doesn't help anyone.
Yeah.
Um,
And do you think part of the issue there is with that? I can only speak from personal experience here. I like fixing problems, and I think guys generally like fixing problems as well. And someone comes forward to you and go, "I've got a problem." It's like, well, I can fix it for you. Strap yourself in. Oh, mate, listen to this. You just need to do a walk in the morning, listen to a podcast, go to the gym 3 times a week. You'll be fine by next Wednesday. Do you think that's the issue that guys, when they have conversation with other guys, that they try and sort of fix the problem rather than just kind of shutting up and just saying, "Okay, mate, let it all out, and I'm here to listen for you and support you," sort of thing. The guys go, "I'll fix that for you, buddy. I'm a fixer."
Yeah, yeah, and that's just them trying to deal with it, right? But that's why I think talking to different people will help you. Don't talk to one person and go, "Oh, that's not how I expected that person to react, so that's it. I'm going to hold it up, keep it in, and never talk about it again." Actually, talk to a few different people because some people might just listen. You'll be, they'll be your punching bag, and that's not. Hopefully, they're then pass that on to someone else. Um, but yeah, I think that's the reason as to why you should be talking to more than one person because not everyone knows. None of us are trained psychologists, right? We haven't got PhDs, we haven't gone to university and got a first degree, a first in psychology. So yeah, just open up, talk about your feelings. I think you'll be. I think British culture is very much don't talk about it. Everything's okay. Hard on the outside. Drop it. You will thank yourself for it and you will feel better, you'll perform better, your clients will be happier, which will make you earn more money.
Yep. There you go. Nelly, what more can you want? Nelly,
No, that's all good.
thank you so much time for your day. It's been absolutely brilliant. So thank you for your absolutely golden nuggets on this. Really appreciate your time and making time out of your busy diary. And many congratulations on your multi-award winnings at the Agency UK conference the other day. Very well
Thank you
deserved.
so much. Thank you, Chris. It's been an absolute pleasure. I love talking about this stuff. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Nelly. Appreciate it, buddy.
Thanks.